Byron again. I'm back with you. Um, Kind of going to go back and cover a couple more points. I mentioned to you before about foundations, and sometimes I guess the foundational teachings are a little repetitive, I guess, but I see an extreme amount of misteaching, and I'm not saying that misteaching is necessarily done intentionally, but let me tell you this: Satan does mislead and misteach intentionally. And sometimes people pick up on things that are not of God and teach them as if they are of God. Now, I've mentioned before in a couple of videos how people use the Word of God as it is written and twist it and change it to match what Satan has said. And, there's a thing called the Book of Enoch. And in the Book of Enoch, he talks about fallen angels that went into the daughters of men in Genesis chapter 6. If you do some research into the Kabbalion or any kind of mysticism, that's the same story that you'll get from those guys. In fact, they actually talk about Enoch. A very brief look into Enoch. There's more than one Enoch in the Bible. And very honestly, there's more than one Enoch that's lived in the world. So you can't really trace a book back to a specific person to say that the Enoch that walked with God is the Enoch who was taken from the earth and is the one that wrote this book. Especially when you read something contrary to what any other person in the whole entire Bible has written, except for people in mysticism. And it is the people that are in mysticism, and you read about them, and people that are Kabbalists and people that are in mythology and things like that. They talk about Enos wrote on pillars and things like that. And he wrote similar things to what you read in the book of Enoch. So I totally blow off the book of Enoch, regardless if there's 99% truth there, because it does not match what is written into the Bible. And I talked about foundations before in one of my videos, and God had shown me how alligators had come in and just wallowed out the foundations, and it was unlevel. It was difficult to walk on. But if you're watching somebody build a foundation, let's say if they're making a foundation for a road, they work on it for some time. In fact, the foundation takes up most of the time in preparing for the road. They'll use a roller not only for the finishing work, but also prior to the finishing work. They'll do it during the process of making the foundation to ensure that the substrate or the stuff under the road is going to be prepared to hold the surface or the load that's on the road. So I want to just go back over some things here in Genesis chapter 6 that honestly, if you slow down and read them, are written right into the text. That should jump out to us if we were to give a quiz on the text. And let's say if we were to give a school lesson and say, I need you to read this and then I want you to answer the following questions from the text. We could answer these questions from the text. But if we were to say to an adult, read this and then answer the following question, an adult having been exposed to mysticism teaching and things like that, they might answer them differently because they've taken information from outside of the Word of God. And let me go back through this and read in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. And let me just say this quick point here, how important a foundation is. If you believe that at some point in time an fallen angel came into the daughters of men and interbred with them and caused the corruption of the human race that caused the flood, you are also susceptible to believing that that might happen again. Then you are also believing that man does not have free will. And that at a certain point in time, you might be susceptible to a teaching that, well, the devil made me do it. Or things like that, you open up a whole nother can of worms. And remember back to the elementary statement that God made to Cain, if you do well, will you not be accepted? But if you don't do well, sin lieth at the door. So these are truths from the truth of God that we have to be mindful of. So let's go back in Genesis chapter 1. I'm going to read a while, and I'm going to hit a couple more points that maybe I didn't bring out before that are important. So in Genesis chapter 6, verse 1, and it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of God, and earlier identified the sons of God, those calling on the name of the Lord, after Enos was born unto Seth, saw the daughters of men, those following the line of Cain, that they were fair. Now, if you follow the sons of God throughout the whole Bible, you'll never see the sons of God in the King James Version identified with angels. And you'll never see, if you go back to the Greek text, that the sons of God specifically linked to angels. You can go and find the word angels, and you can find other words linked to angels. And you can go find other words talking about stars falling and things like that. You cannot find Bien Elohim linked to angels. You can hear people allude to that, but you can't find it in the text. But you can find people calling on the name of the Lord alluded to or spoken of as the sons of God, especially in the New Testament. To them that believe on his name gave he power to become sons of God. Or don't you know we are the sons of God? So that's there, that's a fact. So to ignore the fact that the Bible does define sons of God as mankind who calls on the name of the Lord in this case is not prudent. So I do subscribe to sons of God are man. So first point, another little, just the roller going back over the foundation. That the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they chose them wives, all that they chose. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always dwell with man, for that he is also flesh. Now, when it says he is also flesh, throughout the script of the Bible, flesh has two representations. One is a physical thing, physical just being that you can be born and die. Two is kind of like a spiritual thing in that the portion of you, the pride part of you, the idea that I, Byron, my pride in myself, I can do this. I have the choice to make. I can choose to do this without God or whatever. I believe that's what's being spoken of here. For that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be numbered 120. So God right there in this text, in the context that we're talking about, identifies man in the sense that he is flesh. No allusion to he's a hybrid, as stated by many people. All right, and not only just as stated by many people, but if they don't state it, they're implying it. Now, in Genesis chapter 4, there were giants in the earth in those days. Now, we could put a period at the end of this sentence. There were giants in the earth in those days. There's a semicolon here in the King James Version Bible. And then we get, excuse me, and also after that. So we can conclude there were giants in the earth in those days. And after there were giants in the earth in those days, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. So the two clauses separated by the semicolon are independent. The giants that existed were not the result of the sons of God and the daughters of men. They were independent, according to the Bible. Now, according to not the Bible, maybe they were. But according to the Bible, as written, they're not. One might argue that they were. One might say the Bible was wrong and all that stuff, but we're not called to say that the Word of God was wrong or anything like that. What we're called to do is to believe the Word of God. And, just once again, rolling over this thing with the big roller to just sink in the foundation. And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth. Another point made. The wickedness of man was great in the earth. Not saying God saw that the fallen angels had bred with man, therefore dooming man. Didn't say it. It said the wickedness of man was great in the earth. Goes back to he also was flesh. And that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Goes back to the flesh. And it repented the Lord that he had made man on the earth, and it grieved him in his heart. I'm going to stop right there. I just wanted to roll back over that with the little roller there to try to level out that foundation. You may be one of those that today that are out there searching for the truth, and you may be looking for it in the dynamics. You may be looking for it in someone that has a great presentation. You may be looking for the truth in I honestly, I don't know exactly what manner that you're looking for the truth. But the truth is actually detailed in the Word of God. And it may not be delivered in quite the 20th, 21st century manner that we're looking for. But the Spirit does bear witness to the truth. And you can't just change a language to match up with some other Kabbalist theories. You have to stick with the language that's clearly on the page. So I encourage you, especially a new person, a new believer, there's so much misinformation out there. If you were to just take a Bible, not just any old Bible, I recommend the King James Version, a word-for-word translation. And I do occasionally hear people arguing over which Bible is best, and I can tell you, it needs to be a word-for-word translation, and you need to watch it. You need to look into the Greek and make sure that, do I really understand that these guys did a good job? But to put your trust in a man telling you what the Bible says in this day and age is totally ludicrous. You need to, if a guy is saying what it says and you can read what it says, cool. But if he's saying what it doesn't say, come on, somebody help me. And check his version. If he's reading out of some other, if he's reading out of the NIV and you get over into Job and he's saying angels and you're reading out of the King James and it's saying sons of God, then you got problems. You need to get on a page that everything's crisp and clear. Because, I just watched a video of a thing as early as the 1600s, and I know this happened before then because Paul talks about it in 2 Thessalonians. But the 1600s, men were writing books to plant seeds of deception. And there's guys today that are actually preaching from seeds of deception sown that long ago. So it's so important to know the truth, and it's so important to get it specifically from the Word of God. I listened to a man one day say the Word of God is, you shouldn't even read it, and that's nothing but a setup to let me teach you all my bull crap that I got for you. Totally crazy. So hopefully that's helpful. Once again, God has held me up here for quite a while. Obviously, it's important for someone, and so hopefully that's helpful to go back over those points, because it's definitely obvious that sons of God, fallen angels is not written into there, and it's definitely obvious that flesh and wickedness and evil in the hearts of man is written into There's your reason for a flood. Thank you.